Hello everyone, my name is Deepak Singh. I am a product manager with a telehealth firm in California, United States. Today I will be talking about a paper that I recently published and got selected. The heading of the paper is Redefining Boundaries in Healthcare, an in-depth exploration of telemedicine's and wireless technology's role in emergency care and disaster management. Let's dive deep into telehealth first, and then we will talk about wireless technology and how these technologies and these solutions play a role in emergency care and disaster management. Let's talk about telehealth first. What is telehealth? Telehealth is all about leveraging digital technologies to deliver health-related services, as it is written on the slide here. So when you talk to a doctor over phone and receive the consultation in email, that is telehealth. When you talk to a doctor over a video call and your information is sent to a different department in a different city, that is telehealth. Now, as we can see that for telehealth, technological advancements are required, but these days, after the advent of COVID, telehealth has accelerated, right? The technological advancements has accelerated the telehealth adoption, and hence there was a need to increase the research in this domain. In this paper, we will talk about what are the past researches in summary, and then what are the research gaps that we need to focus on. Now, towards the end of this slide, I would highlight the importance of telehealth in emergency and disaster management and how do they link, right? So if there is telehealth, it will improve the access to care. It will enable quick response times when there is someone in need in case of disaster. For example, if there is any drought, if there is any water overflow due to dam wreckage, right? Or overflow of the river. It reduces the strain on healthcare system because now there is no need to travel for all the doctors and providers to the site, because the doctors and providers can access and understand the actual situation which is happening at the site, at least the initial stage. Now let's learn a little bit more about telehealth. So how does this telehealth fits in the disaster management context? So as we discussed, telehealth can assist in triaging, pinpointing those needing immediate care, right? For complex care, definitely someone needs to be in person, but for someone who is needing immediate care, for example, for first stage, if doctors want to guide someone for the first aid, if there are flu in the area, so what are the triaging as in doctors can ask questions and understand the current symptoms and then prescribe the medicines accordingly without actually visiting the place, because let's say the roads and the electricity are not working at par. Now there are always challenges with any kind of solution, and challenges in using telehealth in disaster management is the challenge of infrastructure damage, challenge of power cut, and then of course regulatory concerns, which is high in the industries like healthcare. For example, if there are some disaster happening cross-border, so regulatory concerns will come into picture, but at the same time, national security concerns can also come into the picture if it is a cross-border related telehealth service that needs to be provided. So this part needs for more comprehensive research to understand the telehealth effectiveness in large scale and diverse disaster types. But for the regularly occurring disaster types and for small scale issues, especially for the beginning one, I think telehealth is the best solution. Let's look at a little bit more about how virtual consultation and triaging fits in the emergency care domain, right? Virtual consultation is one of the parts of telehealth. And going to the next slide, we will talk about digital health in the emergency reaction. Talking about virtual consultation, I think adoption of virtual consultation has surged in recent years, especially after COVID, as we talked about. And benefits include obviously reducing the patient wait times, right? And facilitating early intervention instead of doctor visiting the patient or patient visiting to the doctor. The first aid, the early intervention, the early triaging and checking of symptoms, and then initial medications can start as soon as possible. But again, there are challenges that we discussed, that lack of internet connectivity will not establish virtual consultation. And ensuring quality of care will also not happen. And then again, we have privacy concerns. Similar issues we will see in the digital health domain, right? So now one can ask, how is virtual consultation different than digital health? So virtual consultation is actually about the consultation where patient and provider can talk and have the consultation, whereas digital health in general will be related to like non-in-person healthcare. For example, writing some prescriptions, responding to some questions that the patient has. But again, the challenges here and advantages here are very similar. Advantages include quick consultation in a written format with specialist. And then challenges again include internet connectivity and legal and regulatory dilemmas, of course. And then user acceptance, right? Because what if the user does not trust the provider who has just written? Who knows who is on the other side? Is that a provider or some provider's assistance? So these are the challenges area, and these also are the gaps that are there in research that needs to be found out. Now we talked a lot about telehealth in disaster management. Now let's talk about how wireless technology fits in, right? And of course, telehealth cannot exist without wireless technology, at least in disaster management context, right? Because telehealth can also exist with wired technologies if the consultation is happening over a desktop computer. But let's say in disaster situations, we only have solution of wireless, batteries, mobile phones, tablets, right? Like emergency parts that are set up during the disaster situations. So talking about role of wireless technology in emergency situation, I think wireless technologies provide real-time communication and enhance the situational awareness. What is situational awareness? Situational awareness is something like what exactly the patient is feeling at the time. The doctors can know this if they can wirelessly connect with the patient in the situation. For example, the patient is stuck on its rooftop when there is a river overflow in the nearby area. Wireless technologies can help, because wired technologies can only help you in the room. And the advent of 5G technologies and AR and VR technologies, and especially the drones, really promise great improvements in disaster management. Even here, the research gap exists in understanding the implications of these emerging technologies, but at least we can start thinking about it. We can start implementing these technologies and see how do they work. So AR and VR technologies are used for simulating emergency situations sometimes, so that patients and providers or doctors can be given a training about how the situations may look like. Though more research is needed to assess the impact of these simulations and these AR and VR, effectiveness of these AR VR technologies, but we can start tackling the solution upfront. So now we talked about telehealth, we talked about wireless technologies. Now let's have a look both in combination and see what are the future directions of telehealth using wireless technology in emergency care, right? What are the steps that need to be taken? First is we need to strengthen the infrastructure to overcome the technical challenges. When I say infrastructure, it can be wired as well as wireless technology, but in the scope of this paper, we will talk about wireless technologies. Second, addressing the regulatory and legal issues. For example, delivering healthcare over mobile phone, and especially when it is cross-border practice or cross-state practice. And third, which is very important, we need to emphasize on enhancing the user acceptance and train both the doctor and the citizen to understand that telehealth is also a good solution and a great solution, in fact, for that matter, to start with at least, and do the first aid in the emergency care situation. So overall, I think these are the three main directions that need to be looking in to advance telehealth using wireless technologies for emergency care. Of course, in summary of the research, we talked about talked about increasing the research and evaluation in telehealth. We need to find out and identify areas of focus for future research, and that can be done based on a trend and gaps that we have identified earlier in the previous slides, and also need to highlight the need for more robust research to fully understand the telemedicine implications in emergency care, right? Currently, we have just started using it, but we do not understand the implications. So future papers need to do these things in order to strengthen our actions to advance telehealth for disaster management. Now to conclude, I would say that, and as I could gather from all the past papers, that telemedicine is a promising player in the emergency care and disaster management, but it needs to address the current challenges of regulation and infrastructure primarily, and then secondarily to gain the trust of the users and doctors. And then finally, there is more research need to be done in order to fill the gaps that we identified in the previous slide, gaps related to the challenges. So please refer the full paper for complete details, and I would conclude my presentation with this thought. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you.